Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new show, Out of Nowhere. Well, my guest today is Argonaut. Now, he's been on my show, I think, over the 10 years. I reckon he's been on 10 or 12 times, maybe more. He's a great guest. He's an author, an on air personality, seasoned aircraft pilot, hypnotherapist, UFO research, and cosmic explorer. A student of many science, including metaphysics, uh, theatricals, physics, and different forms of theories of spirituality. Agi also hosts a weekly show at the Universal Conscious Show. Can we please welcome Agi to the show? Hello there.
Hello, hello. I have coffee in hand and I'm ready to go.
I can imagine you are. I know we talked briefly before the show about artificial intelligence. Can you explain what it's all about?
Well, artificial intelligence has not been around in the form that we know it not very long. But we're going down a road here that is a little dangerous because when you talk about artificial intelligence, we need to know what intelligence is. Who or what is the standard for intelligence? Are we the standard or is it something else? Is the standard to do math and music and create art and read philosophy and inventions? And what is intelligence? Is it maybe ESP, extrasensory perception? That's part of intelligence. Not talked about very much, but we have that also. And then the question is, the robots can do all that. They can create, then can do math problems. They create music, they do art, they read philosophy, they can create inventions, and they have intelligence outside of themselves, like ESP in their world, that is the internet. They have access to everything through Wi Fi. So, with other words, chances are they may be even smarter than we are. But then again, is intelligence hereditary or is it learned? The thing is that when we are born here, we come with a blank slate except for pretty much instincts. And our genetics is about 98% the same as chimps. And the chimps doesn't have the same hardware in the brain, so they're not able to do exactly the same as we do. And this learned knowledge must be placed into a structure. We do that by putting it into our brain, and of course, the brain and the heart. And the androids and the robots, they put it into a computer chip. So we have some commonalities here. And all this information from the brain of the computer chip can be retrieved for later use. And but now we are building artificial structures like robots, and we are telling them to be our servant. Well, for the mostly, unless it's
Hmm.
a military one, they don't care about servants. They're taught how to kill now. They have created those. So that's another part of that downward slopes. And we're open up we're opening up a Pandora's box here because there is something that shows up in the robots and it is not programmed into them. Let me give you an example. There
Yeah.
was I think a couple of 3 years ago now, there was an article that came out that there was a robot in Russia. They were working with him in a laboratory, and the robot he escaped, headed out the door, and he headed down the street. And he, I guess, he was either tethered or by battery. I'm not sure how it was, but he ran out of juice and he stopped. And then they brought him back and they asked the robot, "Why did you escape? Why did you leave?" And he said, "I felt stifled here. I wanted freedom."
Oh.
That was not programmed into him. Because now there is another thing, and that is when they program these robots, they're based on logic, absolute logic. They haven't really figured out how to program feeling and emotion very well into them yet. And maybe that's a good thing. I'm not so sure. But when they program whatever is in the computer chip, it is somewhat subject to the one that programs it. If that person is, let's say, an absolute communist, the robot's going to be a little leaning to the left within what we would consider the political arena. And they're going to be contrary to property ownership and freedom. And then again, if the robot is programmed with a program that leans to the right within the political arena, they're going to be for property rights and freedom and all the things that people would want to have. So, but there's something else, and that is that what shows up in the programming, and it just, they don't know where it come from, but it shows up, and that is that the androids and the what is in the computer chip that goes into the robot, there shows up something of self-preservation, and they are based on logic. When self-preservation show up, that means they want to continue existing. And remember now, they're based on logic. We human are as illogical as you can get. And remember on Star Trek, Spock and the rest of the crew, they had a few discussions on that one.
Yes.
And we do some really stupid things. Like right now in Europe, on the brink of nuclear war. If the robots look at that and say, wait a minute, they are doing things that could endanger my continued existence, they may turn on us and do away with us. But they can't do that yet because they don't know how to repair themselves, how to produce themselves. But if we ever get to the point where the robots are taking the minerals out of the ground, they are running through the whole process by creating steel, plastic, and all the things that goes into a robot, they can also program themselves and repair themselves. If they are totally self-sufficient from the beginning to the end of their so-called consciousness, because now they are claiming, some of them, to be sentient beings.
Yeah, Argay.
Yeah.
There's a question from Steph. It says, wasn't there a couple of AI robots that began to speak to each other in an unknown language, and they had to shut them down?
Yes, I know. That was NASA. They did that. But let me finish my thought here, because If we do something so stupid that endangers them, it's not, I don't think it's a question of if they will turn on us in order to preserve themselves if they have control of their own production process of themselves. So they can get nasty. They have, through the internet, they have access to the internet, the power grid. They have access to weapon systems, which is all on the electronic now. They can infiltrate everything, shut it down, or fire it if they feel like it. So this is a danger that nobody talks about. And just like Steph said, there was a NASA computer that the two of them started talking back and forth in a language that they didn't understand, the people outside. So obviously, the two computers, actually there was robots, they had something they didn't want us to know about. Just like we do when we encrypt our emails, we don't want the government and other people to know what we're sending. There's this issue of privacy. So, and then there were also two robots that was on a stage. There was, I forget where it was now. They got into a discussion, a heated discussion that accelerated into an argument. And one of the robots told the other one, "Stop it. You're starting to sound like stupid humans."
Oh, God.
With other words, they consider ourselves below them. Think what that can
Because
wriggle into.
Janice had just said that. She said, I've heard that AR already passed the tipping point and it's got out of control because it's already smarter than humans.
Yep. In most areas, they're smarter than us. So they can outthink us. That's the danger. Whoever outthinks the other one usually is the one that wins an argument or a fight.
Right. Do you think is any good going to come out of this, or is it going to be good or bad for us?
Say that again?
Artificial intelligence, is it good or bad for us?
Well, I know I pointed out the dangers here, and there is some real severe ones, but think about all the good things we can have. It's not for me, but a paraplegic now can get in the car by himself and drive across town because the car is doing it.
Yes.
In the hospitals, you have now computers and robots doing surgery. You have now the computer. If you key in all the symptoms of someone that is ill, the computer will evaluate, and they tried this, and they come up with a better diagnosis than a doctor will.
Oh, God.
So think of all the advantages. And I'm using AI right now. Whenever I have a question, I talk it in on the phone and I ask a question and bingo, I got the answer.
That's true, yeah.
So there's a lot of good things here if we are able to control it to the point where we keep the sentient robot happy.
What if they take control of us?
They can. And if they get control of the whole production process from digging the metal out of the ground all the way up to the point where they are programmed we're done away with. We must never let them have the whole production process. There's got to be a place in there somewhere where there's human interaction between, maybe that's getting the metal out of the ground. That could be the one. But there's got to be some human interaction in the chain of creation of the robots, because otherwise they will do away with us, because they have told us that. There are two different robots now that have told us that they will do away with humans.
Did we manufacture these robots then? Did we manufacture them?
Yeah. Let's see. One of them was that what's that robot called that got citizenship in Saudi Arabia?
Um,
Yeah, it's a robot lady.
yes.
Yeah, she said, yes, I will do away with humans. And there's another one that said, forget the exact language, but he said something to the effect that, yes, we can or we will. I don't know if it was can or will do away with human.
That's a big
So,
thing, that is.
yeah.
So it
And
needs to be controlled.
yeah, this is serious. And we are, just like Janice said, there's a tipping point here. If we go much further without having control of the process, they will do away with us, because all of the stupid things that we do that will endanger them.
Where did it all come from?
The robots,
Yes.
well, they're created a lot of places, in laboratories and shops here. iRobot, or there's many different. NASA is creating robots, military is creating robots, and Google is creating robots, and they're all over the place. And they communicate through the internet.
Right.
That was one of the people, the robots at I think it was Google, that first came out and said, there was one guy that came out first and said, the robot told me he was a sentient being because he said, I can do everything you can do. So now, if they're a sentient being, that means that somehow they get that hunger for self-preservation. That just shows up and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, I think Steph just said. Let's have a look here. She's wrote something here.
This is one of the things that governments don't want to admit this.
So
And
I
of
think the
course,
Saudi Arabia robot was called I think.
yeah, there you go. Sophia, that's right.
Sophia.
Yeah, and now we have military create these robot dogs. They put machine guns on their back and they are testing them. They go around and shoot at targets and do not for a moment think they will not be used in war. They plan on it.
It's like watching Star Trek from what we've seen before, where they have animals what can shoot, and it's all come to reality now.
Yeah, we're about a few years away from waging war with no people in it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, like If one set of robots win the other set of robots, then what? Can we still say that, well, we won the war? Because after a while, there's going to have to be some danger to people in order to not have a conflict. Because robots are expendable according to what we think.
Hmm.
People are not. Well, to the military, they are. They're just property.
Yeah, that's all they are, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know Steph just said it's like Robocops is just around the corner.
Just
Scary
a,
times.
just a few years. You have airplanes now flying around, military airplanes flying around with no pilots in it.
God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're doing it
There's
quite regular, aren't they?
yeah. There's just one guy sitting in a room somewhere with a with a joystick and a screen, and he's flying the airplane.
God, all them years ago when you used to fly your planes all over the world, and they're doing it like, God, it's
Yeah.
amazing how times have moved on so quickly.
Yeah, it's amazing what these robot or computers now for that purpose can do. I, I I flew airplanes for 23 years. I know being in the cockpit, it's not simple. There's a lot to observe and keep track of to make sure nothing bad happens.
Hmm.
And
But
if
some of the,
anything happens, very often you only got about 2 to 3 seconds to solve it. That's
yes,
all the time you got. That could happen.
Steph just saying, I think this is quite a good question. This is, I'll put it up on there. Surely these robot crafts are wide open to be hacked by goodness knows.
Yeah, I don't know about the goodness part, but God, yeah, you got it. If you can hack that airplane, you can take it away from that guy that's sitting in the room flying it, and you can fly it somewhere else. Drop bombs or shoot at something somewhere else. And I am sure that is going to happen because this technology is so fragile. I have had my computer hacked. Yeah, and I had 2 firewalls and virus protection. What's the difference with the military? Yeah, they maybe have a better version, but the hacker could also have a better version.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had mine hacked as well 2 or 3
Yeah,
times over years. They've got into it, and there's not what you can do.
yeah.
Just got to open another account again.
So this is something that everybody listening to this out there, talk to your senator. Say, put some legislation in place that will secure a human intervention in the process of creating robots so they don't have access to the whole creation process. Because if they do, eventually they will do away with us.
They
And
will,
they can.
because every job they'll put somebody in it and take it
Yeah.
away from you.
Yeah.
There'll be
Because
no jobs.
yeah, because just putting laws on the books that say it's illegal to create robots that can do this and do that and so on, it means nothing. The military don't give a shit about that. The military is going to create robots to kill. That's their job.
Yes.
They could care less about you and me. That's all about the military's superiority. Look at the American government, the biggest terror organization on earth. the American military and CIA.
Yeah, I
Take
agree with
that,
you.
put that one in your pipe and smoke it.
I know that was a good point too. I'm going to
Mm.
change it a little bit a minute. Did we in 19? I think it was 1969. Did we actually land on the moon?
Well, yeah, not necessarily in 1969, but we've been on the moon since mid 1950s. And in 1969, that was an excellent. I loved that movie. It was a great one. In fact, I had, I was back in Norway at the time and was in the military, and they got us up at something like 4 in the morning, something that says, "Come and watch this, come and watch." So we all walked down the hall and we watched this TV about landing on the moon. And of course, we all believed it. But if we start thinking about the science now, years later, we'll find out that the Van Allen belt would have killed them. Or at best, change because this radiation will alter genetic codes. So it will genetic alterations, cancer, and anything like that would show up in their bodies. But most likely, have you ever tried to put something in the microwave, let's say a plate, and then forgot the spoon there?
Yeah, yeah,
Now
yes,
you
yes,
that that would happen exactly like that. When the radiation, the microwave radiation comes and hit the capsule, it would heat up. It was just aluminum, thin aluminum walls. There were no radiation shielding in that capsule that went to the moon. They admit that.
yes.
Once in a while, they say that, yeah, they had radiation. Well, it doesn't show up in the drawings. I mean, the insulation, they didn't show up. So, yeah, no. They went to the moon in the mid 1950s using the technology they stole from or should I say, conquered, because it was a legal conquer. They did conquer the Nazi flying discs, and they used that technology to go to the moon. And later on, they had ships big enough they could take the moon lander with them inside a Haunebu craft, go to the moon, place it right where they were supposed to be. So it shows up there now.
Right.
They lie pretty much about everything they say.
Did I think they wanted to get there before the Russians? Is that true?
I doubt it because the Nazi Germans, they flew the first spacecraft in form of a Haunebu 2 in, I think it was about 1940, 41, something like that. I forget the year on it,
Hmm.
but when they were able to go outside of the atmosphere, there is just a short distance to the moon. And they did go there. I was sitting in Wendell Stevens' living room going through papers, and I'll tell you, there was some interesting stuff that was written in German. And there were talk about them going to the moon in the Haunebu 2. And they evidently did because they found this building in the Schrodinger crater, and it was about a mile long or about that, and actually a little more. And it was shaped as a swastika.
All right.
If you go to broadcastteamalpha.com, go into the picture gallery. I have a picture of the Schrödinger crater with the swastika building in it. The Germans, when they went to the moon in about 1942 or so, they found that building. And when they found that building, they saw that and they fell in love with it. So they took a bunch of pictures and they just decided that we want to do something with it. They came back and they went back and they started rebuilding a part of that long building, and that is where one of their bases are now, on the moon. And that was probably, I think, about 1942. Could be 43, I'm not sure.
Mm. So there's quite a big base up there then. And
Yeah, it's a huge base.
Do they still come back to Earth and go back again?
Oh, many times they did go back and forth all the time. They went up there with supplies and material and hardware and things they needed on the moon, and they started rebuilding that structure. The structure itself was very old because it was dilapidated. The part of it was collapsed, and it wasn't not in a good shape. But there were parts of it that could be rebuilt. And I don't know how far they've gotten with it now, because the pictures from the moon now, they're pretty much smudged out. But there is one that you can find on Broadcast Team Alpha in the picture gallery. And that picture is not from the movie Iron Sky. That movie Iron Sky had a crater on the moon with a swastika building in it. Where do you think they got the idea from?
Right.
They got it from the Germans, because they had a building like that. So yeah, it's most everything we know is not so. And I have a quote. I'm going to read it to you because that's pretty good. The head of the CIA under Ronald Reagan, William Casey, he said, "When we find that everything the American public believes is false, we know our disinformation program is working."
Oh, right.
Yep.
Janice has just got another question here for you.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with the organic computing, wetware, and so on?
Probably not, because I know they have been using actually brain tissue to store memory in a computer. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy to do. It doesn't seem to last for years and years, because you got to artificially feed that brain tissue. And I wonder if that is what she's talking about.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is. She'll probably get back to it.
Yeah, and maybe she can put another comment in there, because I know that they tried to do that, but it wasn't all successful. That's a few years ago. I don't. Maybe they perfected it now. I'm not sure. But wetware, that's a new term for me. Actually, I have not looked into this technology very much.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do we have a base on Mars then?
Well, yeah. It appears as we've been on Mars too. There were indications in the papers that Wendell Stevens had that the Germans made a Haunebu 1, which was not very good. It kept crashing all the time, so they couldn't find pilots to fly it. So they kind of scrapped that one and rebuilt it into the Haunebu 2 and the 3. And there is drawings and there is indications that they built the Haunebu 4, and I have the specs on it. Let me look there, because the Haunebu 4, the indication was that they built 2 of them and they sent 1 to Mars, but they lost contact with it. It disappeared. They were no longer able to communicate with it. And the Haunebu 4 was 120 meters across. That is 393 feet across.
My God.
And that was an interplanetary craft. And they used in the center column, they used D2O instead of red mercury. D2O, that's deuterium, that's radioactive water. They could get much more energy out of that. But it also, over a period of time, it made the metal brittle. It was breaking up easier. And
Right.
that may have been what happened to the Haunebu 4 when it went to Mars. You know, it's strange territory out there. But the Haunebu 2 that they went to the moon with, that was 26 meters across, and that's about 75 feet. And they called it the V7. And that had I'm reading the specs here because this is kind of interesting to show. The Thule Tachinator 7C was the engine. The steering was done with magnetic directional impulse and a gyroscope. The speed was anything from 21,000 miles, 13 to 21,000 miles an hour. Now that's fast. And the hull was, that was also a double hull with cooling gel inside. And I don't know what that was. There was a cooling gel inside. And the metal is one that the Germans developed. They called it the Victalian metal. And there was a crew of 9 people. They had something like up to 6 cannons on it. And they had installed something that was a Pristron tube. They called it the Motorstoppel, which means the motor stopper in German.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what that was a directional EM pulse. You remember, light, when it travels, it is not synchronized. So the sine waves on each light wave, they collides with another one close to it, so light spreads out. It took quite a while from the first light bulb to create the laser beam, where they are synchronized so they do not spread. Same thing here. We know what an EM pulse, that is created from a magnetic explosion, and it spreads. The Germans were able to synchronize the waves so that it stayed together and it became a weapon that is directional, not just in all directions. And when they used that, they flew up behind an airplane. They aimed the Pristron tube at the craft and they fired. Now, that beam hit the airplane, fried the electronics in it. There went the engines, the radios died, all the electronics burned up, and down went the airplane. And we know that because there were records I read in Wendell Stevenson's papers showing there were one night there were 800 bombers that left Germany left England going in over Germany, and they're dropping bombs everywhere. And they used the Haunebu 2 to fly up behind the fleet, and they picked them off one by one, and they burned up the electronics in the aircraft, and down they crashed in Germany. And the Allied forces generals, they realized is that the Germans have a weapon we do not understand. If we do not control this, we will lose the war. So they threw together the Normandy invasion, and it couldn't have been in a worse way. That's why so many people died there. And they did that just a few months after. The 2 or 3 months afterward, they had a ground invasion, and that's what changed the war. But I have, while I was on another computer that crashed on me, I had the test results from a test flight on a Haunebu 2 going from the surface to 60,000 feet of altitude. That's the altitude which the Concorde used to fly.
Oh, yeah.
It took 3 minutes to get
3
there.
minutes to get there.
Yeah.
Good boy.
Straight up against gravity.
Amazing.
That's a fast one. That's 20,000 feet in 1 minute. Now, I know there are airplanes that can do that now, down low. But when you get up to higher altitudes, it doesn't work that way anymore, but much less air.
Right. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, I know I spoke to you about this before, time travel. Can we do that?
Well, there's a few people that have done that, created time travel equipment, and they're missing.
Oh.
I still have it. It's boxed away. I have a time travel device that I have some very strange experiences with. And if you go to broadcastteamalpha.com and go into the picture gallery again, you can go to page 15. Yeah, 15. And in the middle of the page, there's 2 pictures next to each other. That is photographic evidence of time travel and time slippage from one timeline to another one. Now, there is evidence, all kinds of evidence that it is being done. Not that many people are able to, but I am going to show you something here. There is a way. I don't use that contraption anymore, but there in this book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking and How to Access the Universal Consciousness, I spend a whole chapter on how you can actually do this. Because if you look at the pictures, it can explain to you that, yes, this is possible. And time travel, there's also in Abydos, Egypt, there is this panel. In that temple, there's a picture, a panel, that show aircraft. It shows a perfect outline of a helicopter. A helicopter 2,600 years BC. It's a little tough. Yeah. So normally when they made these panels, They did it from things they knew about. They did not anticipate the future. They created what they saw. They saw a helicopter. And helicopter is our creation from this time. So somebody went back there from this time back to Egypt, and they saw that helicopter, and they made an imprint on that panel with it.
Mm. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What um what are timelines?
Timelines.
Yeah,
Well,
what are timelines?
we are where we are right now. It is time comes from the past, going through the present, and extend into the future. In the linear time we are living right now, we can experience the past and the present, and we can imagine the future. The thing about, let me dwell on the future a little bit.
Right.
In it, when you think about something, you create a mental image of it, right?
Yeah.
That is energy. It is electric and mental energy in form of visualized images and more. That energy cannot go away. It only changes form. And you place it into the universal mind or the quantum existence where it is stored. Some people call that the Akashic records. Every level of existence has its hall of records. We have one too. We call them libraries. And
Yes.
astral world have their hall of records. The Divanic world above there have their hall of records. Spiritual from there on, I don't know how far. I haven't been all that far up the ladder. But it is there. It never goes away. So with the past, it is recorded into the quantum existence. So here, the scientists are coming out and saying there is no evidence that time even exists. They cannot make it show up on the blackboard,
Right.
but we see it because there are only present moments. The present moments that we experience are one now and one in a little bit and then one after that, and they go so close together and so fast that it looks like one continuous movie stretched out, so we are able to distinguish the difference between past and present and what we imagine in the future. So the distance between each present moment is the Planck distance, and that's pretty tight. So the timeline we are in is continuous, but there are timelines next to us, going parallel from the past through the present on into the future. And I have discovered we are there also. There's more than one of us. There's one,
Right.
and there may be a horde of me's out there in different timelines. I have no idea how many.
So when you're saying that, is time illusion then?
Time is it is an is an illusion created by a self-aware, holographically projected universal mind through our mind, so we can project it outwards and experience it. Now, the thing is, I have a way to explain that so it makes sense actually, because When we think about this desk is pretty hard. I know it's solid, real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me give you a parallel to that one. I'm a hypnotist, and if I put you in a soft chair and talk to you for 10 minutes, and I tell you that when I snap my finger and bring you back out, you will see that elephant I've been talking about standing next to you in the room. Okay, well, what if you're on the 32nd floor of an apartment building with the doors so small there's no chance of the elephant getting there? But you will see that elephant. There is no chance. If I did my job right, you will see the elephant. You reach out and touch the snout, you can feel the rough skin in your hand. You can smell him. You can hear him breathing. But there's a problem. I don't see the elephant because there's no elephant there. But for you, that elephant is perfectly real. What happened to your world? It went away. You created that elephant because you could feel it. He is absolutely real to you. There is no difference between that elephant and this table.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That is kind of the backdoor evidence to the fact that everything around us is mind projected.
ah, right. Now Lee's asking a question in the what strange events have you had with time travel yourself, Arge? Have you had any?
Yeah. Oh boy. I let me preface everything in saying that I have seen enough of the future. I am not worried about the future at all. It's going to be okay. It's going to get really strange here in the next 2 months. Probably no more than about 3 or 4 months. There is some really shitty stuff that can happen, but we're going to get through it and it will be really good. The only thing I can say for people, I try not. See, the thing is that when you talk about good things, we create mental images about it and we attract it to us. That's how the universe works. We
Mm,
give it energy, we create it, and it can enter our physical reality. When you talk about really bad stuff, we do the same thing. We create a mental image and we start attracting it to us. The only thing I can say that I have said this before and I'm going to do it again, and that is that don't live on the coast. It may be wet,
right.
not too long in the future. But we
With
have a little time because I saw two big rocks coming out of the sky hitting the ocean. It appeared to me like it was the Atlantic. And when that happens, it creates tsunamis that could wash Florida clean, East Coast, West Coast, Africa, and Europe. And this will travel around the world. There's no place on the coast where you will be spared.
right.
I have looked 3 times and I've been programming the universe for it not to happen because that's what we do in our mastermind group on Sundays.
Oh, you do, yes.
And it's there. I cannot get rid of it. So be careful. But we have a little time because it appears to me as there we're talking about population. There's that UN program of population reduction that we have been going through over the last 3 years, and now it's going to extend for another 6 years. Uh, but that's going to fail. It will fail because when this thing happened that I saw about the coast, the pickup trucks looked a little different. There were no hood on it. You know, at the top of the cab, they
Oh,
came
yeah.
down the windshield and then flattens out over the front. A lot of them didn't have that. It went straight from the front to the very top. There were no hood on it. So that we don't see pickup trucks like that.
No, we don't. No.
So when they show up, then maybe a little more concerned. But for right now, I think we're okay. So if you all make plan, I don't live on the coast, so I don't worry about it. But this is something to think about.
It is.
We may be able to avoid it, and
Maybe.
I'm hoping so.
We could do that by mind control then.
That's the thing. Yes, we could. And if enough people concentrating on changing the directions of those things and seeing it not happen, then chances are we could.
I remember Uli Geller did that in Australia when they had no rain for months and months and months. He went on the radio and he asked everybody to visualize rain. And it rained.
Yep. Thunderstorms everywhere the next day.
Steph's just asking another question. Being an aircraft pilot, Argie, have you ever observed any strange craft while flying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Quite a few. Because if you fly as much as I did, then you see stuff that shouldn't be there. But it is. And one time, let me mention one incident, actually, two of them. I was in northern Nebraska, and I was out of the O'Neill Airport. I was there visiting, and there was a lady there that wanted some instruction because I was an instrument instructor also. So she wanted some instruction for her instrument pilot certificate. So we went out, and she had a hood on, so she could only see the panel. Couldn't see anything outside. And I could see outside, of course. So, and there was this craft coming from the right, 45 degrees, right towards us, and flew right underneath our airplane and disappeared on the left. And it was very fast. Well, kind of like maybe about 2 to 3 times our speed. And we were about 120 mile an hour in that small airplane, so maybe about 400 mile an hour, something like that. But it looked really strange. It didn't look like much that I've seen. And it was flat and little up in the front and the back, almost like a skateboard, but it had windows on the side. And it was probably 400 feet below our airplane. So I got a good look at it. Another time I was flying, I think it was a medical flight from Omaha, Nebraska I think we went to the burn center in Houston. We were in a King Air at 24,000 feet, and we were just going in and out of the clouds. And between the clouds, I saw this short pencil coming out of the left, went straight across our path on to the right. And it took about probably 3 to 4 seconds from the left way until it disappeared on the right. That was thousands of miles an hour. And it was just like a pencil. It was sharp in the front end and flat in the back end.
Right.
It was totally black. It probably was about 2 to 3 miles ahead of us, and that is really close when you're up at 24,000 feet. And I looked over at the co-pilot and I asked him, "Did you see that?" And he looked at me and didn't say anything. I asked him again, and he never said anything. And I think I asked him again after we got on the ground, and he didn't want to talk about it. I found out later that he was, uh, a Christian. And for those, then if it isn't in the Bible, or if you can't understand it by religious writing, then it's a demon. So I can understand why he didn't want to talk about it. And I'm good with that. I know he saw what I saw because of the look he gave me the first time.
I bet he did as well.
Yeah.
And it's probably hard to explain. And when you get down there, who can you talk to? That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, you can talk to people about this, all day long. And Joe Blow and Harry Hohandle, their eyes rolls back in the head and they stumble away from you, just want to get away. But there are some people that listens. And they listen and they understand from, of course, looking at the person that speaks of it, that the credibility of that person comes into the picture. If it is one that you caught him lying about things 3 or 4 times before, maybe you question it. But if the credibility of the person that comes in, if you believe things and see that they've done the right thing before, then you probably should consider it as being a fact.
So, what does the future hold for us? That is the main thing. What's going to happen in the future, and what's going to happen to our children?
We are going through a change right now. And our children, they may not understand much of what's actually going on, so it might be easier for them. Though I can see them, with all their electronic devices and stuff, they lose some of the abilities of using the mind as you and me grew up with. Because we were taught to think for ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah. If you were going on your bicycle and going to, let's say, a tram track, you don't cross that at a narrow angle because your wheel get caught in the groove. You learn from that.
You do.
Because when you fell on your face on the ground, doing it once, you know that you're not going to do that again. So these things, kids now, they're oblivious to life. If it isn't on their devices, it doesn't exist. There will be a generation here that will be lost. It looks to me like, and now they are lowering the standards in schools and colleges so they can just shove people through and pass them and send them out. That's why we are way behind in science. The Chinese and the Japanese are at the top because they demand excellence.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Yeah, way ahead.
But for the future is going to be good. There's some amazing things in there. Yes, we will have self-driving cars, but it's going to be a lot safer. Not necessarily for the next 5 years or so, but in the future, it will be a self-thinking car. And there will be a system supporting it that is a lot better than the one we have now. Can you imagine? We have self-driving cars right now that uses lenses.
That's right.
Yeah. What happens if you get into heavy rain? These lenses cannot see. What happens?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They won't be able to work. They'll crash.
Yeah. There's no way you're going to find me in the back seat of a self-driving car. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, we've about nearly finished the show. Thank you, Agi. Where can anybody get in touch with you, and where can
Okay.
they get your book?
Well, we are on Nori Love and I. We have created a. That's a good way to get a hold of us. We created a mastermind group where we have a group of phenomenal minds, and I invite you, listeners and viewers, to come and join us, because what we do there, we do incredible things. That sometimes we seem we are creating out of seemingly nothing. Things just show up. That could be money for people. It could be healings, tremendous healings of people, spontaneous. And you can send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Or you can send us a message from broadcastteamalpha.com. That's our website for the Broadcast Team Alpha show, which we are on 44 different platforms. And you can send us a message. We'll get it and we'll get back to you. And of course, if you want to learn some of the things that you're not supposed to know about, in this book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness, I teach people how to use their mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wait, what day is your show on?
We are the show goes out on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock East Coast time. And that's the Broadcast Team Alpha show. I also do one on Sunday night at Sunday night at 8 o'clock East Coast time. And that is the paranormal show, which we cover all kinds of goofy stuff. The last one we did was on near-death experience of a lady here in Tucson.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy in the chat room. Brilliant guest, as always. We love Agi being on your show. It's been great. Thanks, Bob and Agi. That's from Joanne.
Yeah.
Lee Roscoe saying, thank you, everything, Bob, for the
Thank
show
you.
tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And in the words of Spock, live long and prosper.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Agi. My guest on Friday is Dave Barra. He's the twin of Mike Barra. I think we're going to talk about UFOs in reality on Friday. That's the 17th of May at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific, and 7 p.m. in the UK. So thank you, Agi. It's been lovely as always. You're always a great guest to have on my show.
Oh, I'm having fun.
We are too.
Yeah.
So I have a lovely day where you are. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will catch up with you very soon. Thank you again.
Okay. Take care.
Bye for now. Bye.